So, like I said, we're gonna start in a child's pose. So you can come into that when you're ready. Move all these props out of the way, and then of course, as always, feel free to pad your knees if you like. And then for your child's pose, you might also slide some kind of prop underneath your upper body, or you can just let yourself sink down into it, depending on what feels best for you. Just take a couple moments to settle yourself in. Close the eyes. Couple deep breaths. Noticing the parts of your body that maybe don't quite want to let go. And just giving them some space and some time to really gently release bit by bit. Taking this time to just notice how you land in your practice tonight. Notice where your mind naturally wants to wander off to. And if you're on a prop and you've had your head turned to one side this whole time, go ahead and flip it to the other direction. Noticing the places where you can feel your breath in your body. Just take a couple more deep breaths here. And then really taking your time, you can start to pull yourself up into a tabletop position. If you've got a prop there, you can slip it right out of the way. You can take a couple breaths to just kind of wiggle around any way that feels best. Coming back to stillness for a moment, let's step the knees all the way together to touch and tuck the toes. We're going to sit back into a toe squat, so that's just sitting right on the heels here. Now this can be pretty intense, so some options to make it less intense. If you have a block or a pillow would work well as well, just a little bit on the firmer side to let your knees land up on something. That'll take some of the pressure off of the heels. And you're also welcome to just take a little break, coming onto your knees anytime you need to. As we sit in our toe squat, we're gonna try to let the hips heavy down into the heels, so you're not gripping in the thighs to hold them up. And then just let your right ear fall over to your right shoulder for a few breaths. You might gently land the hand on top of the head, not pushing, but just adding a little bit of weight if you want. You can move your chin around a little bit, maybe dropping it lower to move the stretch more to the back of the neck, or maybe even going back and forth a couple of times, keeping the breath going. Take about one more breath here, and then if you're using the hand, bring your hand to your right ear and use that hand to press your head up. And then you can walk yourself back into a tabletop, untucking your toes, and take a little tap out of the tops of the feet. I'm going to come into that one more time for the other side. So go ahead and tuck your toes as you come back to sit on your heels. Adjust as you need to. We'll lift up nice and tall, and then when you're ready, let the left ear fall down to the left shoulder. You might add the hand if you like, really gently landing on the head. And breathe. Notice if any clenching came into the jaw, let that go. Again, maybe moving the chin a little bit. Really dropping the right shoulder down. About one more breath, and then using your hand, bring your left fingertips to your left ear and press your head back up with the hand and release. We'll come back into our tabletop where you can untuck the toes and tap them out once again. And then from here, you might want to leave your blanket where it is. Maybe I'm going to move mine a little bit further down. We're going to come to lay all the way onto the belly. So the blanket might be nice just to give a little cushion for the hip bones. And then just land in a Sphinx pose for a moment, letting your elbows be underneath your shoulders. You might step the feet a little bit wider apart at the back of the mat and just feel how that maybe feels a little bit more spacious for you. From here, we're going to do a thread of the needle. So let's let the left arm slide straight out as you slip the right arm under the left arm, and the right ear is going to come to the mat. Now if that feels a little bit crunched up for you, you might slide one of your smaller pillows underneath the head for just a little bit of lift. And if you're just feeling like there's just kind of too much going on here, getting the arm across the chest, then you can also bolster up right underneath your belly. So almost like you're going to create this little cavern for the arm to slide under. As this big bolster picks your torso up, you might still have a cushion for your head, and then the right arm slides in between the two. So the right shoulder can still come down. You're just lifting everything up. So it's not quite so much pressure on the arm. And then again, heavying everything down, relaxing the legs. Feeling that little rise and fall as your belly breathes into either that bolster or right into the mat, lifting and dropping. Take a couple more breaths here. And moving super, super slowly, you'll start to press yourself back up, landing on your elbows again. So taking a moment for a breath here. And then as you're ready, you can slide the left arm underneath the right, bring the left ear down either to your pillow or to your mat, setting up with your props if you need them. So if you, practice this without the props, it's going to be a little bit of a deeper stretch. But you might need the props just to give yourself the space, or it might just feel nice to not go quite so intense. And tuning into the breath, and let that just really help you melt everything down. Loosening up the jaw, let the whole face soften. Take a couple more full breaths here, sending the breath where it needs to go. And then again, really taking your time, you'll slowly peel yourself back up onto your elbows. And then from here, if you have props underneath you, press yourself back up just so you can remove them. We'll slide this bolster out of the way. And if your blanket is on your mat, slip it just to the left of your mat, keeping it on a low setting. And then we're just gonna come right back down onto our bellies. You can slide this prop out of the way as well if you had something underneath your head. Make a pillow with your hands, stacking your hands right underneath your forehead. And then we're gonna put the right leg up and land the left knee onto your blanket that you just set off to the side. Now here you might let your right ear stay on your hands, or maybe your forehead, or maybe turning to the other side for just a really gentle twist in the spine. And again, if this feels a little bit too squished for the front body, you can slide something small underneath your belly for just a little bit of a pickup off of the mat. Take a little scan through the legs. Notice anything that can be released. And finding that rise and fall of the breath, and just riding it out. Take a couple more breaths here. And as you feel ready, you can start to extend your left leg back onto the mat, maybe turning your head to the other side or back to the middle. Just feeling two sides of the hips, two sides of the body. We'll press the palms gently underneath the shoulders. Pick yourself back up into your tabletop, and just for enough time to slip that blanket to the other side of your mat. We'll come right back down. Make your pillow and let your right knee lift up onto your blanket. And again, your choice. You can keep the gaze to the right here for a little bit of a gentler spinal movement, or you can take just that really little bit of a twist, turning the head to the left. Then feel the right leg heavy down. Feel both thighs relax. Notice if the shoulders and the arms can be a little bit softer. Take a few more breaths here. And then just really slowly start to slide your right leg back out. You can bring your head to center or to the other side. Feel the two sides of your body land. And we'll start to slowly press our way back up onto the knees. You can come back to sit on your heels for a moment. And then just kick your legs straight out in front of you. From here, you might want to sit up on a blanket. I always like to give a little boost. We're going to set up for a forward fold. So I'm a pretty big fan of sliding something underneath the knees, especially for a passive forward fold. I hyperextend my knees, so I always want to make sure I'm not like going all the way into them. And then you might also want to have some pillows or props handy here. As we ground the sit bones, we'll take an inhale to lift, and then you're just going to exhale and kind of let yourself drape without pulling or forcing. And so here's where you might want to build up some pillows or bolsters or blocks on top of your knees so that your head has something to land on. You also are welcome to just let the head hang heavy if that feels right for you. That can feel pretty good. Try to loosen the jaw and the tongue, just letting the face kind of hang here. Again, noticing the rise and fall of your breath and letting your body surrender so much that you just ride that little lift and drop like a wave. And just notice where your mind wanders off to. Notice what might build up in your body and continue to bring yourself back, to release, to tune into your breath. Letting your focus go inward. Notice what's there. A couple more full breaths here. And moving at your own pace, just really gently start to press yourself up using your hands to lift your spine. Feel the spine stack, feel the shoulders slide down. You can start to slide that prop out from underneath your knees if you had one there. We're just going to crisscross at the ankles. You can also slip this blanket out from underneath you. And we're going to flip it over, coming into a downward facing dog. And here you can take a little movement, pedaling out through the feet, shifting the weight side to side. And we're going to slide the right knee up towards the right wrist, making our way into a pigeon or a swan pose. You can drop the left knee down. Try to keep the hips square here. So if in order to go lower, you end up with your left hip way back, then that might mean that you just need to bolster yourself up a little bit higher. So here you might slide a block or some pillows or some blankets underneath your right hip. And then when you're ready, that left foot is really reaching back as you start to lengthen yourself forwards and come down. And then any number of props might land underneath your chest here. You can build yourself like a little landing pad. And then take a scan through the body to release. Notice if there's a changing reaction in the body or in the mind. So you get into different parts of the body. Just noticing, none of it being right or wrong. Just acknowledging the body's response. We'll take a few more breaths here. And let them get a little bit deeper, maybe taking a big exhale to rinse out anything that might have built up for you in this pose. And then as you feel ready, you can start to press yourself back up onto your palms. Remove any props that you have underneath your hip. You're going to let the right hip fall. So you're going to end up turning to face the side of your mat as you turn your left toes up and drop onto both of your sit bones. So coming into a seat with your left leg out and your right foot into your left thigh. Another place where you might want to boost up onto a blanket to just help you find some lift in the spine. We'll take an inhale, lifting up tall. And then as you exhale, turn to face your left leg. We're going to just gently fold ourselves right over the left leg. Try not to be concerned with how far down you go. You might land your hands or your elbows on props. You're also welcome to build up a bunch of props to support your whole chest and upper body if that feels better for you. Otherwise, just letting it hang heavy. Trying to release any need to force it. Soften the shoulders, loosen the jaw again. Even relaxing that right leg. Notice if it tensed up. You'll notice the head just gets heavier the more you let go. Notice where you need to send the breath more directly. Take a couple more breaths. Really using your hands and your arms here, press yourself up slowly. It's going to be maybe a little bit intense as you come back, so take your time, feel the spine stack. A couple of breaths here, let that settle. And then as you feel ready, you can start to turn your upper body to the top of the mat, planting your hands. We'll step the left foot onto the back of the mat and come into your downward facing dog. Now if it feels nice for you, you can lift the right leg up and you might move it around. If you're craving a flow, you can go ahead and move yourself through a vinyasa flow. Otherwise, just landing both feet down and maybe taking a little bit of movement side to side. And then from here, we'll start to slide the left knee up towards the left wrist, coming into our pigeon on the other side. And just acknowledging right off the bat that it's going to be different than the first side. So take your time setting it up. You might want something under the left hip. Keeping the hips square, keeping that length as you move the heart forwards to come down. And then again, you might slide something underneath the chest, underneath the head, or even just underneath the elbows. If you need to land on your elbows but lift them up a little higher, that can work too. Try to take it out of the shoulders as much as you can. So using props, using pillows, so you can heavy down without really clenching up in the arms and the shoulders. Try to stay right here in your body. Letting go of what's outside just for now. Find a couple deep breaths. Rinsing out any last little bits that you need to rinse out here on this side. And when you're ready, start to press your way back up. From here, we're gonna let the left hip come down. So you're gonna end up turning to face the side of your mat again. I'm gonna spin all the way around so that I don't have my back to you. Setting up for our Janu, so you'll ground both sit bones. The left foot will come into the right thigh, and you might again want to come up to sit on a little something. We'll lift tall, turn towards your right leg, and then I always like to think of these as like a wind-up toy that just ran out of juice. So just kind of like that, like let it go. And again, if it feels like you could use a little support here, it might feel nice to land your elbows, your hands on something. You can build up a bunch of props right over the thigh and make it a little bit more restorative. And just kind of notice where you're at. Notice how the head can get a little bit heavier. Jaw release. Noticing where you are, where you may have gone off to. Gently coming back. Take a few more breaths here. Really using the support of your hands. You can press yourself up when you feel ready. Stacking the spine, sitting up tall. And then you can start to turn yourself towards the top of your mat and step yourself back into your down dog. And here is a little bit of free movement if you want to open the hip, lifting it up, move it around if you want to take another flow, or just shake it out here in your downward facing dog. And from there, you can just gently tap the knees down to the mat. You'll come right through your seated position. Actually, just come into a seated position for a moment so we can set up. So we're going to use our biggest prop for this next pose. So your largest pillow, or maybe a stack of several pillows. You can put that straight across the back of your mat, almost at the top edge. And then let's take another 1 or 2 pillows or a blanket at the very top of the mat. We're gonna face front, so those pillows are behind you. And then we're gonna come into a butterfly. So as soon as the feet come together to touch, you're welcome to support your knees here if you want. Any prop will work, so blocks, blankets, pillows, anything you've got. And then we're gonna drape ourselves right over this big guy, letting the head land on the little guy, or little guys, whatever you got up there. And assess, maybe you don't need quite so much underneath your head. You'll go a little bit deeper if you let the head fall back further, or maybe you feel like you need more. Maybe this is a little too much. So sliding yourself onto this big pillow so that it lands really straight across your shoulder blades and your lower ribs. So you shouldn't really be pressing into the low back too much. Let your sit bones and your tailbone still drop down towards the mat. It might feel nice to sweep your arms up over your head. You might just kind of gently hold onto your opposite hand. That might feel a little too intense for the shoulders, in which case you can let your hands just land on your belly or maybe straight out to the sides for a kind of medium option. Take a couple more breaths. If your arms are over your head, you can start to slowly bring your hands down towards your belly. And reach your fingertips towards your thighs, using your hands to close your knees up. And then grabbing those thighs and pick yourself up nice and slowly off of your props, coming into a seated position once again. And then you can just take a moment to move things out of the way. We're not gonna, well, you might keep your smaller pillows handy for this next one, but pretty much everything else can go. So just keep those by your side, and then come back down to your back. If it feels nice, you can let the knees come into the chest for a moment and take a little movement side to side. And then we'll land the feet flat to the mat, moving the hips a little to the right. We're gonna come into our twist, letting your knees fall down to the left. And so here's where you might want a pillow. You can slide a pillow underneath your knees or in between your knees, or maybe even both. We'll let the right arm fall open. Now, of course, you can go with no pillows at all, and just let the body drape as it will, if that feels right. Taking a couple of exhales as you release yourself down into your twist. Take a big breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, letting it go. And start to slowly step your feet back to the mat, bringing your knees to center, bringing your hips to center. Pause here. Feel the two sides of the body. Let the spine come back to neutral. And as you feel ready, you can start to shimmy the hips to the left. We'll let the knees fall down to the right, using your pillows as needed on this side. Let the left arm fall open. Close the eyes. Take a full breath in and open the mouth, empty it out. Really slowly start to pick your knees up, coming back to center. Again, take a little pause here. We're gonna come up into a seat just briefly. You can either roll off to one side or you can grab your thighs and pull yourself up like we did that last time. And then we're just gonna slide a prop, most likely your largest pillow, underneath the knees. You might also want to grab your blanket here if you'd like a little bit of extra grounding. We're just making our way into Shavasana. So as you're ready, you can lay yourself back down. If you want maybe a little bit of a cushion under the head, feel free to take it. Just nothing that's really puffy, that's gonna kind of press your head up too much. Right, so we want to keep the spine as aligned as we can. And then it can feel nice to drape something with a little weight right over your waist. When you're ready, you can let the eyes close, settle yourself in. Just feel the body being held here. Letting the breath find an easy way in and out with no effort. One more time, releasing the jaw, letting the shoulders drop down away from the ears, releasing the thighs, the hips. Allow yourself to really take in this moment. Feeling the space that you've given yourself tonight with your practice. Another moment or two here, so just really savoring that feeling. Savoring that space, a feeling of being supported, feeling of relaxation in the body, noticing how that might have a ripple effect, relaxing the mind, releasing the tension. You can let your breath get a little bit deeper. You can start to move around in your hands and your feet. You're rocking the head, maybe a stretch of the arms. Then you can step your feet right onto that prop underneath your knees and gently roll off to your left side, coming into your fetal position for a moment, pausing there. And just kind of slowing yourself down, not being in a rush. When you feel ready, you can press it back into a seat. Keeping the eyes closed as best you can. We'll just come up into a comfortable seat. Let your hands land on your knees as your spine lifts tall, your shoulders slide down and back. We'll bring one hand to land right over the heart, and the other hand can stack right over that one as we drop the chin. Sending yourself thanks and acknowledgement for your practice, for your time. Take one more full inhale, open mouth, exhale. Namaste. All right. Well, thank you so much.